1976. I won't take up much of your time. I'll be as brief as I can. I will skim over my career. It doesn't take long because it's been largely in the one job. To me, this is all about you and the other people who I've worked with over the years who can't be here today, and a little bit about me. I will mention a few people individually, but if you're not mentioned individually, it doesn't mean you
better get this right. You better get this right.
Okay, so back to 1976 when I started at Tornaveen House. I'd previously worked for the Royal Bank of Scotland, so it was a bit of a culture change, but I hadn't been happy there, and I felt I needed to do something different, and I knew a few people who worked at Goggerburn and seemed to quite enjoy themselves and seemed to be quite happy with life. So I saw an advert in the paper and went along to see this house in the community. Not like anything we would see today. I mean, there were 28 residents in a three-storey house, up to 8 to a room, but that was seen as progressive at the time. I would, having joined what was, I thought, a progressive group of carers. I was, I think 2 or 3 weeks later, I was asked if I would go and work at Goggerburn for a couple of weeks just to help them out when the numbers were short. And I got moved to Ward 11A, which was the cultural diversity opposite of Tornaveen. There was only 14 patients, they were all men, and they all had the kind of objective to put the new member of staff on the floor in the first week. So it was quite scary. And the other scary thing was that I discovered from the charge nurse that he hadn't heard that I was only there for 2 weeks. As far as he knew, I was there for good. However, I did kind of tilt backwards and forwards between Tornaveen and 11A, and I grew to love them both. So much so that I decided to do my training as a nurse, and I went to Queen Margaret College in 1977 to do what was known as the comprehensive course, a diploma. And it was supposed to be kind of ahead of its time and had a reputation, especially within Goggerburn. If you went to Queen Margaret College, you got a charge nurse's post within 6 months of finishing. So that sounded right for me. And on my first day there was only 3 males on the course of about 40 students, and the first lad, he went home at half term, I think it was, and never came back. So that left myself and Kenny Lloyd, who has been my greatest friend ever since. He left in 1985. He was a charge nurse in Ward 5 in Goggerburn, and he left to go to work in Guernsey for 2 years, but he's still there. And it's his birthday today. I returned to Goggerburn as a student, and where was I placed? For 12 weeks, I think it was, 11A. And at the end of I qualified as a general nurse and then returned to do my learning disabilities in 1981. I didn't go back to 11A, I went to a few different wards then. And then when I finished, I started as a community nurse, a staff nurse. So I never actually worked as a staff nurse within the hospital. So the first person I want to mention is Pauline Kemp, who John has already mentioned. She was the person to give me my first job, first proper job anyway, and had great faith in me and was a great influence in terms of her values and the way that she managed staff, and managed a fairly small team at that time. And not only did she employ me the first time, she also welcomed me back after I rather unappreciatively walked away and went to work in the private sector for a few months when I worked as a medical representative with a company called Lundbeck. And that was a learning experience for me. Mainly it taught me about what I didn't want to do. I didn't last very long, not because I couldn't do the job, but because I couldn't stand the people I was working with, really. Right at the end, I was invited to a national conference somewhere in the south coast, and it was a 5-star hotel. We were given gifts. We had lovely meals, drinks. We're spoiled for 2 or 3 days. And I kept thinking, I would hear somebody speaking. I think, oh, what did you say that for? And oh, that's not going to do your career much good. And then I realised they were all behaving like that. And I was the odd one out. Fortunately, by that time, I'd already, Pauline had offered to take me back to Tornaveen House as a charge nurse, so I think I handed my notice in the next day. And I've not really ventured far from the nest since then. That was my big adventure. So yeah, I returned to Tornaveen, a great experience. With some good students, including a chap called John Foley. We hit it off right away, went out for a drink, and I think in today's parlance, the bromance started at that point. And John has been a great friend ever since. Our lives at times have resembled a country and western song. But to be fair, I think, John, yours has been much more of one than mine.
And then some.
Yeah. But I will remember always that during my difficult years, John used to phone me every day just to check that I was okay. And that meant a lot. Hey, where are we now? Oh yeah, I got promoted. I was kind of providing supervision to some staff who'd been seconded to work for the Action Group and the Church of Scotland. And despite my atheist beliefs, I was still able to provide support to the staff that had to have a reference from the minister before they got the job. But we'll rush over that. And I was made something called Residential Services Manager. I had a small caseload as a community nurse, and was responsible for staff at Tornaveen, Douglas House, and all these seconded staff. And while I was there, I got to go back to Queen Margaret College for a second time, which was brilliant because I loved it there. And I was seconded to do the community nursing course, which everyone who was a community nurse at that time got the chance to do. Unfortunately, nobody gets to do it now. So that was another highlight. And then in 1992, I returned to the post, more or less, I'm in now. And I've enjoyed most moments. I've worked with some fantastic people, and in fact, the people that I've worked with have been the motivation for me. I know that you've got great values. You do tremendous work for people with learning disabilities and their families, the most disadvantaged people in our community. And I've always seen it as my job to support you to do that. And I hope I've managed to do that. Now, wait a minute, I was going to mention some other folk, wasn't I? Where is she? Oh, Dr. Tracy Sanderson. I first met Tracy when you were a trainee, maybe? At St Joseph's, under the tutelage of Dr. Hetty Davis. And that was colourful in itself. I remember Tracy and I worked together sometime after that, probably in the early 90s, when we held a psychotherapy group for some gentlemen who were resident in Gogarburn at the time. And I really didn't know what I was doing. But Tracy kept me right. And made me, but you reassured me that I looked as if I did. So that worked out well. And that model has, I think, kind of continued ever since. We tell each other at least once a week how wonderful we're doing. And at times, I got some lovely emails today from a whole variety of people, and quite a few referred to my calm and considered approach. I thought, they don't know that I was panicking underneath the surface half the time. I've always felt I've been winging it. And I suppose that the greatest relief about today is that I don't need to wing it anymore. But Tracy has been a tremendous colleague. We keep each other entertained, we tell each other stories, we make each other laugh. And I will miss you dreadfully. Penultimately, Ruth Alexander, where are you? There you are, Ruth. Ruth has been my secretary and secretary to others for a few years now, and has kept me right and has discovered things about the NHS that I just couldn't be bothered with. So there are certain things that I know that if I don't know how to do them, I'll go to Ruth, and she keeps me right. And she's really been a tremendous support to me, and I want to thank you for that. Finally, you'll be pleased to know, I just want to mention Stella, because Stella is going to be taking over from me for a short time as interim clinical service development manager. And she's having a problem saying that, but practice over the weekend and you'll be fine. I've, like these people that were emailing me, I've always thought that Stella's shown remarkable calm and confidence and just looks like she really knows what she's doing. She's going to make me look really stupid. So the final thing I want to do really, a couple of things. I'll come back to you, Stella. Just to say that I hope that people will keep in touch with me. I am an avid social media user, so you'll find me on Facebook. I've been very restrained up until now, but why bother? I'm also on Twitter, less enthusiastically, as D-Main-Zal. As I'm moving to Cramond, I'll be looking for suggestions for a new handle. And I'm on Instagram as Hybedude. Now, I'm very fond of Instagram, which is where I can show off any photography that I do. But I've only got 28 followers. And I reckon about half of them are young Russian women with dubious backgrounds. So I would welcome more followers. So my last task is just to hand over the mug. And Stella as